Hey guys, and welcome back to another edition of the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. I am Ray Russell, and this week we're getting ready. Bob's taking a trip from Michigan back down to Florida. Going to be part of GrappleCon 3 here this weekend. Going to be giving you a little more details about that in the upcoming episode. Plus, who knows what else hijinks we're going to get into here with Bob this week. And so, in order to find out, we're going to bring him back onto the program right now. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, here he is, Bob Roop.
Well, thank you, Ray, and thank you out there for listening. I might be sitting here sounding rather calm and collected. And until about a minute ago, my youngest son, Kyle, sincerely believes I've completely lost it and lost my mind. I couldn't find the earphones that I need to wear to do this program. And I looked everywhere. I sleep in a lazy boy chair. I looked everywhere on a chair, except I didn't lift the legs, and look under. And that's where he looked. But I had to wake him up from a deep sleep to get him to help me find it. So, oh man, do you talk about feeling like a dummy? I mean, that doesn't mean I'm losing it. Let's put it this way. I always ask the question, if you're losing it, how do you know? Well, if you really forgot what your name is and you don't recognize the guy you're looking in the mirror, you probably lost it. So I haven't gotten anywhere near there yet. Now that I've proven that I'm Abby normal, where should we go?
We always have those days, Bob. I wouldn't think too long about it. The good news is the headphones were found and we are on the air. And that's really the beginning and the end of it as far as the listeners are concerned. They're happy you're here, and I'm happy to talk with you again this week. Of course, we've both had, life going on and behind the scenes and whatnot, but we have made it back together after a week off and going back into the history vault again, I'm sure this week, and I answer a couple fan questions, talk a little bit about some upcoming events you are going to be attending. And also, at the top of the program, I wanted to talk to you a little bit, we've mentioned it in the past, about your new website, bobroop.com. I see you've begun to add a few chapters, or pages anyway, from your book, Deathmatch, here, and you've started to work on your blog area on the website, so the bobroop.com is growing by the day, it appears.
Yes, it was built by a great guy who's a new but true friend, Andrew Corrigan, and he did a wonderful job with it. I have paid probably in 4 different instances a total of $1,500 to $2,000 trying to get a website built, and it always ended up bait and switch. Oh yeah, we're going to do it for $500. But, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Roop, something came up, and now we need 300 or 400 more. Andrew built it for nothing. I mean, he didn't charge me for it. He's my webmaster, and we're becoming friends. But I know new but true friends. And one of the things that you overlooked, one of the best things about us being back is not me. One of the best things about us being back is you. You've been sick. I mean, you were hospitalized. That's always, hospitals are not taking people in unless they've really got a problem. So you were hospitalized. How long was it?
Just on the weekend. I don't think they wanted me. I think they needed the room. So yeah. So wow. Yeah, I do have appointments coming up. I'll be seeing some specialists and whatnot in the upcoming days. So we'll try to get this all figured out, and hopefully everything. Well, knock on wood. Although my table's glass, but we'll do it anyway.
Well, yeah. Well, I can always knock on my head. You being back is the good news because without you, there's no show, and that's not why. I personally care for you and your health.
Yeah.
You've been a very loyal and trustworthy person to work with. And I don't know, maybe it's me, but there aren't that many out there anymore. At least I'm not. Maybe I'm not out there on the street walking up to strangers and saying, "Hey, can I trust you?" But in the norm, I do have some semblance of a social life, and it's hard to find people that you can be friends with. People might think I'm a snob when I say that, but the elements of friendship to me are, first of all, a person has to be someone you can respect. And in order to do that, they need to be loyal, They need to be honest, and the loyalty and honesty and the trust creates respect. And those four qualities make up a friendship. So it's hard to find that. And believe me, there's been times where I didn't have all those qualities. I wasn't a worthy new friend for anybody, but I'm looking for them now, and I'm lucky. And I consider you one of them, Ray. So I've learned through a year and a half or whatever it's been now. The time has gone so fast working with you. When you get old, believe me, you'll understand what I mean when I say time. Time changes. Time really changes. Time goes from a slow crawl to a sprint.
Yeah, you're telling me.
But anyway, welcome back, my friend. Now we can get on to business.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that. But you talk about how long we've been doing this. You believe it or not, next month will be 2 years we've been on the air, Bob.
Oh, my goodness. Well, that is so wonderful. Thank you so much, Ray. And you out there listening, of course, if you weren't listening, every one of you, you sir, you ma'am, you, whoever you are.
However you identify.
Exactly. It's how I accept and respect you. I mean, it's your choice of who you want to be. Having you out there, that means a lot. We have a hard time showing. It's hard to show affection through audio. It's helpful if you can look a person in the eye and be close enough that they can look you in the eye and you can express yourself. They can look at your body language and what they see in your eyes and have an idea whether you're being truthful. There's a lot of people who get on social media and they're very wishing everybody well and everything nice and everything, but it gets to the point where there's so much of it that it seems like it's not genuine. So, and again, that's not a criticism. It's just an observation. I appreciate every comment that I've sent, including ones about I put a hippo icon, not icon, but an emoji. I put a hippo emoji on one of the texts I sent. Somebody commented and said, "Well, that's perfect. That's perfect." That mouth, that hippo's
you
mouth.
You never know what kind of emoji you're going to get from Bob Root, by the way, guys. In fact, though, he just picks random ones. In fact, the one week he sent me, I believe it was a pair of women's lips kissing me, and he goes, "So wait, that was too weird even for me." And I got a kick out of that one because Bob followed it up just perfectly in Bob Root the best way he possibly could. That was weird even for me. I apologize for the lips. So it's always fun though. It's always good to get a text from you. Always good to hear from you. And you talked about it's great for people to be able to look you in the eye so you can have a nice conversation with them. Now we've had a lot of fun the last 2 years here on the program, talking to the listeners out there and receiving their feedback and their questions and everything that goes into that. But you're going to be able to look a lot of fans in the eyes this weekend because you're going to be part of Glory Days GrappleCon 3 put on by Barry Rose and Captain Nick Massey. I was at the first GrappleCon, and this one's going to be taking place once again in Lutz, Florida. However, it's going to be next door to the venue they ran last time. It's going to be at the Hilton Garden Inn at the Tampa Suncoast Parkway because it's going to be an even larger event. And I am looking at the names involved. And Bob, I don't know if you've had an opportunity to look at the list of names here, but I see a lot of guys you've talked about in the past. A lot of friends from the road are going to be part of this event, including Barry Windham, Ted DiBiase.
Great.
Yeah, there's a lot of great names rolling down this list of Dory Funk Jr. is going to be there.
Oh, great. It's always great to see those guys in that kind of environment. We have fans among us that we can be, guys can be genial to one another. And even if they're working or working, I'm talking about the wrestling term working means acting. Even if they're acting nice because of the situation, at least, so what? I'd rather have you acting nice, even if it's an act, than being yourself and being a real butthole. So, go keep up the act. I'm fine with it, but, the boys are, when we get together, the old timers, enough time has gone by for most guys that any animosities or past problems are all forgotten. we still have that thing and all that thing we all had in common. And I attributed it to the fact that you put your body, including your life, in the hands of another person when you work with them in pro wrestling. You let them do things to you that could kill you, but you trust them to do it without even hurting you. So that creates a bond that whether you were really friends with somebody or not, years later, that bond that we had to do, and again, the one where if somebody out in the ring is in trouble, everybody, heels and baby faces, everybody goes to the rescue. And, that creates the kind of bond too. Even if you're not maybe in love with some guy's behavior, the fact that he's one of the boys, by the way, you're one of the boys, Ray. I don't know if you're aware of that. You've done enough history. You know more about the wrestling business than 99% of the wrestlers out there. So, yeah, you're definitely up at the top of one of the boys. I don't know if you've ever been in a wrestling ring, but that doesn't matter. You are definitely one of the boys. I hope I'm not insulting you. But,
no, I've been in a ring a time or 300 many years ago. So I've been around the business a very long time.
Well, you've been the hell. You were one of the boys a long time before No, you can't be that old. Anyway, it's great.
I'm close. I'm getting close. I'm about half your age, Bob. I'm getting there. I'm catching up on you anyway.
Well, that's your. I tell you, man, you're a youngster, really. I mean, so I know sometimes
you and Gorilla Monsoon are the only two people on earth that would consider 45 a youngster, and anybody out there that grew up on Gorilla Monsoon's commentary will get that joke.
Yeah, I never heard it. So, in fact, I've been hearing things about him. I never even had a clue that he had a sense of humor, or was verbose. Was able to express himself and be funny, and I had no idea because I never.
It was business when you were there, probably. I'm assuming.
Yeah, it was all business. Yeah, it was. It was strictly business. He wasn't unfriendly or anything.
No, but when you worked the Garden, I believe Gorilla had he had like a third or whatever, however many percent that was of the pie at that point with Vince Senior and Phil Sacco. Wow. So
I think he was the one that came with Vince Jr. when he met Ole.
Yeah,
and it's a TV station in Atlanta. I think it was Monsoon.
I don't know if this helps at all, but when you told the story before, you seemed to believe it was Gorilla. So
okay, then it was. Yeah, my memory is I started exercising.
Comes and goes.
Well, I started exercising again. I don't know what. I don't know if that's killing brain cells or what, but.
Use it or lose it, Bob, and that goes with your mind and your body. So you got to kind of even it out. So at least you're getting back into shape there for whatever that is for your age.
Well, I'll give you folks out there a tip, and you've heard it before, but maybe there's new listeners who haven't heard it. If you have an experience that you actually feel for, say, 10 minutes, like I did, that you're dying, that you are going to die. And it's a slow death by suffocation. If you have that happen to you, and the only thing that you can do to make yourself better at the moment is to lose some weight, believe me, dieting is so much easier. That motivation, that one, oh man, I've got 40 pounds off. I'm not bragging, but I did this one time. I lost 15 pounds. I might have told this story. I went and packed 15 pounds of bacon on top of one another and looked at how much, my bacon is about half fat. And I thought, my God, I've lost that much blubber. I mean, yeah, when you look at it like that. Anyway, best wishes to all of you out there.
Did you stack this bacon in the grocery store? Or did you purchase 15 pounds of bacon? I
did the old, first of all.
Or did you use AI? I mean, obviously everybody uses AI now.
Well, I've got a great gimmick, but not knowing jack squirrel about AI. That's what Kyle is trying to teach me. I got the great gimmick of being old. If there's questions somebody asks you that you don't want to answer, your mind is just totally blank. I mean, Hey, how are you? Have we met? Yeah, we've been talking for 10 minutes. Oh, well, my mind is just, slipped somehow. So, I better go get things checked out. So it's a great gimmick. And I mean, it makes me out to be a liar in a sense, but I try to do it kindly rather than tell somebody, hey, F off. I really, you know, I
Sure.
have despised you my whole life. I really don't want to talk to you. Yeah, my gimmick works better for me. It keeps me happier. So anyway, and there's not a lot of people out there. I would want to tell that anyway. Since my middle son was born 36 years ago, I've tried to be a good citizen, and I feel like I've succeeded.
It's
I'm
better
not
better
bragging.
late than never.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And, and having I was raised middle class, but with middle class values of decency. In the South, one of the first words you say might not be mama or dada, but might be yes, ma'am, or yes, sir. Because, you're raised in the South to be polite, and to anybody. Some guy panhandling on the street asks you for a buck, and you say, "I'm sorry, sir, I don't, I don't have any money on me or
Sure.
whatever." But yeah, being used to being courteous. You know what? There's nothing wrong with it at all. I don't think people should be forced to act some way that makes them feel it makes them lose their self-respect or damages them in any other way, unless I wanted to say philosopher, but the common term, the vote was taken, and I'm Dr. Psychobabble. So
I will
babbling
go
on.
along with that this week. Absolutely.
All right, let me babble about pro wrestling. I'll shut.
Well, I was trying to promote your event for you here, and then we got into
Yes,
this.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. No. Seriously though, in all seriousness, guys, Hilton Garden Inn, Tampa, Suncoast Parkway, Lutz, Florida, this weekend, October 25th. Saturday, it's going to be going down. I'm going to run off a list of just some of the talents going to be there alongside Bob. Headline guest is indeed the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Also there, Tito Santana, Barry Windham. The ladies from the very first WrestleMania going back to 1985, Wendy Richter and Leilani Kai will both be there. Dory Funk Jr., Jerry Briscoe, Abdullah the Butcher, B. Brian Blair. Oh, Olympian Bob Roop is on the card. Imagine that. Raging Bull, Manny Fernandez. Bill Alfonso's there. You're going to talk to him about who was booking back in mid-'80s Florida, Bob. Bill Apter. There's a lot of talent going to be part of the event. Certainly everybody go out there, and there's various different packages you can purchase for different autographs and grab a picture with Bob, grab a hug from Bob. I don't know what Bob's charging for hugs, but he's going to be there, guys. So
Oh
you're going to want to
no,
be a part of that for sure.
I don't. I don't want to say I pay for hugs because that sounds kind of, that sounds
Well, I
kind of,
mean,
a little bit
it's
weird though.
it's all
But
legal as long as you film it. That's what I was told
yeah,
anyway.
yeah. Well, yeah, I like hugging people and getting hugs because it's a show of affection and it shows you trust people too. I mean, if you're willing to get close enough to them to hug them. A lot of people, we've had this. We're still in the middle of a horrible divide in this country, and fortunately, the wrestling business, including those of you out there listening, whether you first time you've listened, if you're becoming a wrestling fan, you haven't even got to the A part of it yet, less down to the W part. But if even if you're a fan, one of the things that you can feel is that we're all in this together because it is a niche. It's called as a writer, I've been told, and it's obvious. It's a niche like romance is a genre and mystery is a genre, and pro wrestling writing and pro wrestling is not ample enough. There's not thousands of books being written every year like there are in romance, like there are in horror, like there in fiction and nonfiction. Sci-fi. I said sci-fi. The pro wrestling output of literary work is there. I mean, there are people writing a lot of times biographies, autobiographies, ghostwritten or whatever, but it's not really a genre. I don't think it qualifies. I'm not the arbitrator for that, but the niche. When I first finished Deathmatch, It was called Rookie Days Tales from the Mat. It was supposed to be funny about breaking into pro wrestling. I sent it to 6 publishing companies. I got answers from 2 of them, which was a very big compliment because it meant they read the manuscript. And the readers told me that they weren't the editor themselves, but it was their main reader said, "I liked your book. Unfortunately, our stats tell us that wrestling fans don't buy books." What he was talking about, first of all, there weren't a lot of books for them to buy about wrestling
At that time,
they were talking about like in all the genres. No, they weren't buying they weren't buying a lot of the new books on the top 10 list because they were $35 a piece. They were going to the library like I was because they don't have that kind of money. You know, a lot of folks. I'm not trying to put anybody down here, but most of the wrestling audience is middle class. There's upper middle class, but middle class people, some lower class, and that's all socioeconomic. Has nothing to do with what kind of person you are. It all has to do with your wealth and your position. I know I've met much better people that sweep floors than that were running the school at that same school, and so. But our niche anyway is now worldwide because the audience is worldwide through the internet and social media. Some smart authors are having their book translated into Chinese. You got 1 billion people, you know, as a potential audience.
Sure.
If 1/10 of 1/100th of 1,000th of 1% buy a book, you're going to make $1 million. So anyway, the niche has gotten wider, and I'm trying to think back why I even started the story was because I spent those years writing the book. When it wouldn't sell, I went to a CAC, California Alley Club. I think Ole Anderson was being honored, and I went to the banquet, and I was sitting next to 3 Japanese kids or young men who had apparently won some kind of contest that brought them to to the CAC weekend and the banquet and everything. And all 3 of them, I'm sitting at a table. I bought a ticket at the last minute, so I'm sitting with I don't know anybody at the table. In fact, the one Caucasian guy sitting across from me asked me, "Are you a wrestler?" Now I'd been retired for a long time, so I mean I wasn't offended. But the 3 Oriental guys all pulled up magazines and opened it up and asked me if I'd sign it. And it was a picture of me and an article. And of course I was honored. And I thought, well, I asked them, they had an interpreter. And I asked the interpreter, I said, why are these guys why do they all have like old magazines of me? He said, those aren't old, sir. Those are this month's edition. And I thought, my God, and 3 different magazines I'm talking about. I mean, they're all different wrestling magazines. And I thought, well, my God, if all these years later, I still have that much stature, if you want to call it, in Japan. So I took another 2 years and I changed Tales from the Rookie Days, Tales from the Match to Death Match, and made the heel an Oriental. And it's still the same thing. It's about how 95% of it is what it was like to break into the business, all the ribs and having the Mabel pull on the guy where he's running around naked in the courtyard, and all the ribs that veterans, the classic ribs. And they didn't all happen to me. In fact, very few of them did, but I know about them, so I could put them in the book. So it changed it from being a comedy to like a mystery, because that was a much more broader genre. And I thought it would help the book sell better. But anyway, I've gotten so far off the topic. I know you were
actually,
here. We kicked me right in the butt.
We can, we work magic here on the program. I think we can turn this into a topic. Now, I had mentioned you would put up a few of the early pages in your book there as part of the website, bobroop.com. And very well written, I must say. And I don't really read many books outside of the wrestling genre because I'm not into. Let me put it this way: I don't know how I made it through what in my world they called it English class when now it's called ELA and things of that nature. We can't just speak English, I guess, in school. But I don't know how I made it through there because I just absolutely hated to read. It wasn't that I wasn't very educated. I had great grades, but it wasn't my thing. But as I got older, I love learning. I love knowledge, and so
Yes.
as an adult, I certainly read quite a bit. And this very well written, talking about Deathmatch, the novel you wrote. And that's kind of funny because we got this question in quite a while back from William Jett, one of the longtime listeners of the program, maybe since day one. I know William's been around quite a while here with the Wrestling Stoop program. He asked the question, what inspired you to write a novel, and do you have any plans to write a memoir?
Well, first of all, thank you. Was it William?
Yes, William.
I'm so horrible with names. Thank you, William, for your, especially if you've been here from the first. And thanks for the question. What inspired me was that I had retired from wrestling. I just finally gotten sick of it. I was in my early 40s. I could have worked another 20 years easily because I was still in good shape. By that time, I had 2 sons. My last job was working for Ole, and we talked about that on another program.
Right.
And I was working at a job, happy at home with my 2 kids and my wife, and she was happy. She was working too. I was running shows and making a little money that way. I had a wrestling school. I made a few bucks that way. And I was just but I was home. Well, Ole called, and one day he got the book at Turner up
yeah.
at the big show. And Ole called me and said, how about being, he said, come to work for me as an agent. He says, you get 75 grand plus taxes. Expenses. And I said, well, I thought about it for, 5-10 seconds, but I thought, I could work for a year and save my money. And then probably the way we're living now, my wife and I learned how to live according to our income. We never, ever rented like a $2,000 apartment or anything like that. But, there were times when, before she became a nurse, I was the only she could make some income like working in a bar as a hostess or a bartender, but, not the kind of money, steady money, and have a steady job that also is more respectable than working in a bar. Not that I'm not knocking anybody there, but let's put it this way. They use her abilities better because she was very smart. Her mother and her grandmother were nurses. So she was at nursing school. So when I retired, what happened is Ole had hired me. Part of my deal was that I could come home because of those 2 boys. And I knew how my wife felt. Part of my deal was I was to come home every week for 1 day. That was supposed to be part of my arrangement, but we didn't sign contracts. They were all, maybe the guys who were getting paid the big money did, but I didn't. It was just me and Ole had the agreement. Well, one time, instead of honoring the agreement, I spent 23 days away from home. And when I got home, my wife was severely upset. She didn't scream or yell. She was never that way, but she couldn't even pretend to be happy to see me. And the other thing that almost broke my heart was that my oldest son, Ryan, I had raised him for the first 6 months. He had seen more of me every week than he did his mother because she was working. When I reached out to him after being gone for 23 days, he turned his head away from me and grabbed his mother's neck tighter, like he didn't recognize who I was. That did it. I said, nothing's worse. I'd already lost a son through a bad marriage. I wasn't going to have it happen again. So I was on my way to resigning when Ole did it for me. He called Jim Hurd some kind of horrible name where up in the office where everybody, including Jim Hurd, could hear it. So he was gone, and as soon as he was gone, Dusty took over, and Dusty wasn't going to have me around. So we've done that story before.
Right.
So okay, now I'm at home with the boys. My wife's working. We've got a great home. I'm having fun with the boys. We're doing watching Barney the dinosaur and the dolphin and we're playing. I've got educational toys, and so we sit in the rug in the morning in front of the TV. watching these educational type shows, Mr. Rogers, and I have them doing things like, where you have a platform thing with a spike coming to a point, and they have circles like of different sizes, and they're to learn how to put the circles on the spike so that they all fit. So that's I mean, I know sounds very simple, but when you're teaching children at a very early age, those are the kind of things we were doing. Well, it was a great life. It was a great life, and but with just the one income, it was paycheck to paycheck, which is not a problem, except that sometimes things came up. I didn't have insurance yet. I wasn't old enough to have Medicare. Molly's medical insurance covered us, but not entirely. So even one medical problem with me, I remember there was one, and it cost us $600, which was a lot of money in those days. I thought, I've read books my whole life. Why not try to be a writer? And that's why I started writing. I know I had to set up a taciturn author would say, "Oh, just came a time in my life when I felt like it." I gave about like 10 minutes of background to explain why I got there. It was a way of trying to create some income and still be able to be at home and be Mr. Mom for my boys, because that was a wonderful life. That's still the best. I mean, we're still together. My two sons and I still live together. We love each other. There hasn't been a harsh word among us in their entire life. I mean, they're not spoiled brats by any means. They're decent, respectable kids. But we've never had to have a harsh word. A lot of that is due to their mother, who's been gone, about 8 years now. But she was a very good role model for boys about how to respect women.
Right.
And, so it was a great life. I was trying to become a writer, and I did. It took me, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years because I couldn't write what I do is I didn't ignore the boys during the day. I stayed with them because that was the joy. That was a really, what I did was at night, I'd go to bed with Molly so she didn't feel like she was sleeping alone. And then when she went to sleep, I'd get up and I'd go out and I'd work for 2 or 3 hours writing when everybody was asleep. And I had to learn how. I mean, I'm looking at it now as I'm putting it on the website. I recognize a sentence. You know why? I recognize one sentence out of thousands of sentences because it took me 20 or 30 minutes to make that sentence to where I liked it, where it looked right. Yeah, that one sentence. So it was a laborious problem. I mean, it was a prodigious effort, but I eventually taught myself how to, write not great, but okay. Like I said, the six publishers, there was no internet to market your stuff. The 6 publishers I sent it to, 2 of them did respond and said they liked it, but again, that wrestling fans don't buy books. Well, that's not true anymore. Wrestling fans do buy books. I've gone to a lot of, especially Waterloo every year. I bring my books and I always sell a few. And guys like Barron and other guys who are more famous than I was or am. I mean, I've been retired for 40 years, so the guys who are like a Bret Hart, for example, would sell a hell of a lot more books than I would, but that's okay. I sell a few, and I'm there. I'm there with my contemporaries. I love the Barrett. I mean, I love him dearly.
Sure.
We were friends. We were friends back in 1964 in the Army together. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be sitting here now. I never would have become a pro wrestler. I never would have become an Olympian. All the things that led me here, he was at least 40% responsible for. So yes, I do love, and plus, he's a lovable guy. he is so different from that guy that puts the claw out and makes that really nasty face at you. It looks like, scare the crap out of, a Wolverine. And behind it is a really, really nice person. And I don't mean a pushover of any kind. He's a big, strong man, but, he's 86. But He was an inspiration. But should we get back to the GrappleCon this weekend?
If you have something to plug in there, absolutely.
I've been writing about it on my Facebook page. I try to be amusing. I make up stuff just to try to. A lot of it is to draw attention because of the fact that I write long posts, and that's not good on Facebook. People don't want to take.
They don't have the attention span, right?
No, they don't want to read 4 paragraphs. Now, my audience, hopefully, that comes to my website, or they might not mind, longer stuff to read, So, yeah, what I'm trying to do is to get them to be willing to read several hundred pages of my book. It's a great way to market it, and price is going to be reasonable. Believe it or not, I'm in the process. I sold a bunch of them over the years in various ways, not ever more than, like, say, 10 at a time, but maybe a couple hundred. This is the first edition, by the way. And if I become famous, I'm in the wrestling world. I have a little bit of stature, but if in some way I did something that became where I became famous, and that name meant something, or one of my children, then that book could become, as a first edition, could become, although it's not Ernest Hemingway or some great writer, it could become a very valuable document. I'm not charging a lot for it, but again, I forgot. I said I worked for 12 years on it. Once I couldn't sell it through the publishing houses, I put it away, got a job where I could work at home. And so after I ran into the guys with the Japanese fellows that I ran into, then I took another couple of years to rewrite it, to make it, put the Oriental theme in there. And again, I'm writing 2 or 3 hours a day. A writer might write 8 or 9 hours a day, depending if he's got a deadline or whatever. But contract that he's got to finish a book by such and such a date, or it's going to cost him. I didn't have those restrictions, so I took my time again. We were making it financially, and so in all, from the time I started until the time that actually had it printed, I paid to have it printed because the publishing houses were, at that time, I didn't feel it was right. I was reading about new authors having books selling for $25 and they got $2. The author got $2. The printing house got 23. They got 2. I said, no, I'm not doing that. I'd rather sell a lot fewer books. But the publishing house, maybe that's not a wise decision. But then again, my book's been out there. I haven't had any publishing houses break it down my door to say, hey, Bob Roop, oh my God, we got to have your book. That hasn't happened yet. So anyway, that's why I'm going to bring some. Now that's a problem too. I got to figure out a way. I'm flying from Lansing to Tampa on Delta. That stuff about extra baggage, $30 for one, or $40 for the first one, and $70 for the second one that you got to pay.
Believe me, I have this conversation with my wife every time we go anywhere.
Oh my! It's horrible that they're doing. It's just absolutely. We talk about greedy. I mean, my God! And so I refuse to do it. So whatever I'm bringing, I got to carry. Now the bags. They tell you the size of the bag you can bring, and I made sure. We're very fortunate. One of my son's suitcases is exactly that size. So I've got that in a backpack, and then I've got to bring all my pictures that I want to sell. I got pictures of me against the Briscoes, and I'm so glad Jerry Briscoe's there because I'm hoping. I mean, I'm not counting on it, but I got pictures of him and Jack, and I would love. I remember years ago. And Teddy DiBiase was his father. I believe it was Mike.
Mike DiBiase.
Yeah, Mike was being honored posthumously in the same class that I was in 2000 or 26 or whatever, 2006 or 7, whatever it was. Well, Ted was there to represent his dad, And they had this big, like a placemat size thing with all our pictures on it. And Ted signed for his dad. And I don't know exactly how he did it. Maybe poor Mike, and then he signed his name. He didn't sign Mike's name. He signed his name.
Sure.
Well, I was hoping, and I should, if I had any sense, I'd call Jerry first. But if he doesn't want to, that's fine. It's absolutely no problem. But I thought if he would sign for Jack, I'm trying to raise money for someone else that I'm not going to mention because I don't want to make it look like they need it. But I'm trying to raise money for a good cause. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
So if I could make that picture of me against Jack with both our signatures, mine and Jerry, and I'm glad to split it with Jerry, whatever we make, but it would be a much more meaningful picture for someone to buy. If I could have, I've got pictures with Terry Funk. If I could have Terry, you know what? Dory's there, isn't he?
Yep.
Oh my God. Well, I'm trying to sit here and think of some way of approaching Dory about doing that for his.
Well, you got to get through Dory's wife to get to.
Yeah, that's
Dory.
what I was thinking about.
Yeah, you got to get through Marty.
You know what? He did a fun fest years ago that I was at, and I met her, and we got along fine. I mean, she was never, of course, I was totally respectful to her husband. He greeted me kindly, came up, shook my hand. He didn't make me approach him. He walked up to me, and we walked towards each other. He was very, very decent and respectful, and we were never close. I don't think we ever rode in a car together. I know we never had a beer together. Now, Terry was the exact opposite. Terry and I were tight, but anyway, yeah, I'll ask Dory if he wants to. If he doesn't, no problem. I mean, I have a really screwed up, philosophy about money. I keep reading about millionaires and even a billionaire or two who are killing themselves, and that makes me wonder if having a lot of money is the answer to having a happy life. And there seem to be some indications that maybe it's not.
I'd settle for just a little bit of money right now, honestly, Bob. That's my world, but we're not talking about me.
Enough to pay the bills and get through.
Yeah, that's it.
You are very fortunate to be able to be there and watch your children grow up. It was and still is the best part of my life. It makes a very happy life. My two boys and I, we get together and discuss things. You know how we have dinner sometimes? We don't really have a dinner table. We get in the kitchen. Well, we might get a takeout meal for Thanksgiving or Christmas. We each have a counter that we put a dish on, and we stand in the kitchen, leaning against the stove and the refrigerator and the counter, and we chat for an hour or so. And it's great. We're not the holiday enthusiasts. We're all mature men, they are. I haven't made it yet, but as long as I can pay the bills. By the way, two of my sons, my son by my first marriage, and I did help pay for his college fees. I didn't do all of it, but I helped what I could. He's got a degree. He's a teacher, a wonderful person, just one of the best people you ever meet. And Kyle recently graduated with a degree in cyber security and networking. He graduated with honors. Ryan now, so they're the middle son, has been working for 10 years at a job that pays well, but is just very difficult. People can come up to him and be very rude and insulting, and he has to take it. But he mentioned to me the other day that he would like to, he's thinking, he's got 2 semesters left to graduate for undergraduate, 2 semesters, so less than a year. It depends. If it's just like some schools have 4 quarters to make up a year, and some have 3 semesters that make up a year. I'm not sure if he needs the 2 quarters or the 2 semesters, but because apparently he did part of his senior year. But he said he wants to become a psychologist, so and go back to school. We've never had money, and the reason I'm telling these stories, we've never had money, we've never had wealth, but we've produced. The boys have bettered themselves. We made sure that the education was available to them. I don't want to. My grandfather was my dad's side was a doctor and a veterinarian. He accomplished that in 6 years. He worked like just a madman. He was driven by the fact that he grew up poor, and people told him that he was never going to amount to anything. So when he came back from after finishing medical school and veterinarian school, he was a town doctor and veterinarian, and actually one of the most prominent men in the community. So, but he was like others we know. Unfortunately, I don't want to mention names, but those who are driven by insecurities. My dad was a college professor in mechanical engineering, and he was a scientist and very smart. Taught thermodynamics, and by the way, Earl Morrall, the football player, was one of his students. And I ran into Earl later in Florida at a wrestling thing, and he mentioned my dad. But so anyway, there's education in my family. I got a degree, and I've got enough for a master's. I just have to write a thesis, and I don't need to. But my boys are all going to be college graduates, and that's not a big deal. A lot of people with a college degree might take a job in some field that doesn't seem in any way related to what their degree is in. But having that degree, what it means to an employer is that you have enough discipline to get through 4 years or 5 years, however long it takes you, 4 or 5, 6 years to apply yourself to accomplish a degree. It shows that you have to have a degree of self-control, of discipline, and it creates respect and an awareness that the person has quality. I tell Ryan, he's not working in a place where it's important, but I tell him, you don't really want to tell anybody that you're 2 semesters short because it looks like you're a quitter. And it was a personal issue that had him quit. It wasn't anything. His grades were good, but personal reasons he had his heart broken. He had to leave. And anyway, we started talking about money somehow. The thing about the GrappleCon that's coming up is the other Fun Fest. It used to be called the Fun Fest. Maybe there was other names before or after that.
The CWF Fan Fest is what it was before.
Yes. Every time. First of all, Barry Rose is a personal friend, and I really care for him. And he's a great, all those things I talked before about the friendship, loyalty, trust, respect, and all those, of course, he's got all those things. He puts on a wonderful, wonderful performance. The atmosphere he creates is so laid back and relaxed. I've never seen one person unhappy or children crying or people getting drunk. And, I've never seen anything but warmth and the camaraderie. People who run into old friends they haven't seen. And some fans who run into, oh, yeah. Oh, you used to sit in the row behind me all 20 years ago. I remember seeing you all every week for, 5 years. You have that kind of camaraderie that even if you don't know anybody, we have that connection that comes from all being in the business together. Because without those people, none of us wrestlers would be wrestlers. We wouldn't be famous without all those people. A lot of guys like to forget that. Oh yeah, I'm Dusty Rhodes. I did it all by myself. I'm sorry, Dust. I'm not knocking Dust, but it took several hundred people doing their best to make Dusty look invincible for him to reach the stature that he did. Now, to his credit, he was smart enough to make that happen. I've expressed my respect and admiration for him before. My personal feelings have no bearing whatsoever. But, his children seem to be, I don't know them at all, but they seem to be decent. And this GrappleCon, especially with the guys coming, they have, Ted DiBiase is just a great raconteur. He's got great stories. All these guys do. Guys will tell their best stories when they have an audience. The audience might be 3 or 4 people. In past events, I stayed after the events were over and sat around with 4 or 5 people, and we talked about, their matches they saw, and they might ask me about some other wrestlers' matches and things, and I could explain to them, they're all smart to the business. I could explain to them some psychology, but I was having fun. I was enjoying the company.
Right.
And I'm going to do that again this year if I can, if it's possible.
Oh, I'm
I
sure
wrote
it's
on
possible. You're going to have plenty of fans out there. I've spoken to several that are definitely going to be there. They're looking forward to meeting and greeting you. So I'm sure you're going to have a lot of listeners and a lot of just some friends of mine that will be down there as well. So there's going to be a lot of conversation to be had, Bob, if you're in the mood to talk. And I don't know when you're not. So I think it's going to be a good time for you and everybody else. Do not be afraid. If you've been listening to this program long enough, you should know not to be afraid to approach Mr. Roop at this point. He's very open to discussion and just a warm, welcoming type of cat.
Don't you worry. If we're talking, anybody tries to shut me up, I'm bringing my pet hippo along, and we'll get his mouth open. That will run whoever it is away, and then we'll go back to our conversation.
Yeah, see, there's no mute button in real life, so fans will have there's no edit. No. They will listen. There's no filter is what it's going to be.
Hey, it's Bob Smith, and guess what? The Outdated Wrestling Hour is now part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. But hey, no fear, you're still going to hear the unique guests, comedy, music, authors, journalists, funny people. Who knows who's going to end up on the Outdated Wrestling Hour? Remember, it's all new and all old. So check it out in the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen if you know what's good for you.
Hey guys, Ray Russell back to talk to you about all the new and exciting audio and video podcasts we've been putting together over at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. As a self-funded brand, this entire ship is powered by our patrons. It's your support that keeps all of these wonderful shows going here at WrestleCopia. And with that said, I wanted to mention that we now have 3 major tiers with tons of Patreon-exclusive next-level content for our Patreon supporters. And it all starts with the $5 all-access tier, which gets you early access to many of the weekly podcasts, at least a dozen monthly digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure, the insanely detailed show notes for the Wrestling Memory Grenade Regional Wrestling, and the OG Monday Warfare podcast, plus random bonus video drops, archived old-school audio watch-alongs from the early years of the brand. And if that's not all, the brand new Patreon-exclusive podcast, Ranting Raw, featuring yours truly, Ray Russell, completely uncensored, unfiltered, with honest takes, taking patron questions and addressing various topics from throughout wrestling history. It is a whole lot of fun wrapped under the all-access tier for only $5, but things get even hotter with the VIP Superfan tier. For just a few dollars more, you get everything already mentioned in the all-access tier, plus as part of the VIP tier, a whole new slew of videocast series where it's not just your typical watch-alongs. Sure, we laugh, we have fun, but we're also breaking down the history, the context, and the why behind what you're seeing. And as part of the VIP tier, you have access to Dan Gennety's Puro Resu Academy videocast, the Coliseum videocast with co-host Gene Jackson, and the Monday Warfare videocast, Raw vs. Nitro, breaking down the history of the Monday Night War. Plus, you also get the Memphis 1985 folder of goodies and all show notes for the Puro Academy podcast and Gene's retro review show. Lots to be had there at the VIP tier. But wait, there's more. For those WrestleCopia backers who crave even more from the brand, we bring you yet another level of content fit for a warrior, because it is indeed the ultimate tier, which gives you everything from the all-access pass, everything from the VIP tier, plus you will receive access to the big ones video series, featuring a lengthy look and discussion into some of the biggest pay-per-views, super shows, and other events from throughout wrestling history. It's also a great place to keep up with the big events that coincide with the Monday Warfare videocast and so many other big events from years gone by. You'll also have access to the newest big hit to the Copia brand. I'm talking about Regional Wrestling Unreal, the video series. Get ready for the next level in regional wrestling as we dissect territory history in video form. Watch along with us. But still, even more for your money, guys. You'll also receive access to the Treasure Chest, which offers patrons the unique opportunity to download and watch select rarities from wrestling history. And for those of you who are wondering what we offer, are contemplating joining a paid Patreon membership, or simply a curious lurker, a reminder there's a free tier at our Patreon that you can join as well. Remember, guys, no subscription, cancel any time, but I think you'll like the content that we're offering there for any budget you may have. And you can sign up right now, patreon.com/WrestleCopia, or look for the QR code where available. We appreciate your support in helping us pay the bills to keep the WrestleCopia Podcast Network running and enabling us to continue to bring you all the quality programming that we offer.
Relive the glory days of Memphis wrestling with the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast. Each week, we go back in time to review USWA Championship Wrestling from the 1990s, episode by episode. Join us for watch-alongs, behind-the-scenes stories, and exclusive interviews with people who were there and lived it. Whether you grew up watching it or you're discovering it for the first time, this podcast is your ringside seat to Memphis wrestling history. It's all a part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Listen now at USWApodcast.com.
The people, you out there who are listening to this, I thank you personally. But for every wrestling fan out there, or non-fan, you're coming to these events shows tremendous respect for us, that you're willing to pay your hard-earned money to be around us. A lot of guys, sometimes have other engagements. They have to make an appearance and then they're gone. They're only there for the day. I'm there for all 4 days. I wrote on my Facebook page that I'm there as a fender, like a car fender. I said I don't know what model. I said probably T at my age, but I'm actually there as a vendor. Barry tried to book me. I told him, look, I'm feeling it would be like ask you to pay me to come and see you, and I'm also going to be seeing some personal friends. I said, I feel like I would be, in a way, swindling you, in terms of my drawing power. And again, that's not based. I'm not being humble here. That's big. I've been out of the picture for 40 years, and even the fans that do remember me, I mean, there's not like 10,000 of them that say, "Oh, Bob's going to be in Tampa. We're going to go." If there's 50, that's great, But I don't expect. I don't have the name like a Dory Funk Jr., who had the ability to travel everywhere in the world and make fans, and some of the other guys that are more traveled had more fame. Bret Hart was a big star in New York for 14 years. I was traveling the world for those 14 years, about 30 different spots. I didn't become famous in any of them until Saddam wanted to kill me. Then I was famous. But yeah, Bret's going to have a lot more stature than I do. And I have no problem at all with that. I'm not jealous. I admire him for what he's achieved. You know what? I will brag because it's an honor. I met a couple of Bret's brothers at the Hall of Fame that used to be out in Texas, Wichita Falls. I met a couple of brothers out there, and we got to talking and really hit it off. And then I saw him later that year, or maybe it was the next year, at Waterloo, the Hall of Fame. Owen Hart was being inducted posthumously. He had that horrible accident and perished. So they were paying tribute to Owen, and I was there, and I got to visit with, I think one of the son's names is Wayne, and he has a radio program. Is it Wayne?
I don't know about, he possibly, I don't know anything about the radio program, but Wayne Hart is one of the brothers, yes.
Well, maybe I should say not radio. I should say an internet program.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is funny. We did an interview after, when in private, we went into a small room, and there's one of his guys he works with, has got his personal camera, and he films me and Wayne, I believe. Sorry, Wayne, if I've got it wrong, but I just met him, like 3 minutes ago. And in order for us to talk and both be in the picture, we have to have our faces about 2 inches apart. Mm. Oh, man.
Sexy.
Imagine, he's
as
the one.
As much amateur and pro wrestling as you've done, and you have a problem being that close to another man, you should be used to it by now, Bob.
Yeah, but usually I was on my back looking up. No, I'm sorry. I take any advantage I can. But no, I thought it was funny that to be within 2 inches, because, what's called protocol and correct behavior is to give people their space. And that's at least 6 inches. You should never walk up to within 6 inches of someone you don't know and go, hey, what's going on? I mean, give at least 18 inches or more. Maybe, people I always give people about 10 feet, and I start making noises. So if they want to take off, they don't have to run. They can take off at a brisk walk and not feel so embarrassed at having to escape my presence. But anyway, what I'm talking about is later on. The Hart Foundation gave me the Stu Hart Lifetime Achievement Award. So, and again, I'm not bragging. I'm honored. Thank you again, Harts. Those of you in the Hart family, whoever, all of you. Yeah. Because it doesn't matter whether you had anything to do with me getting that really, really significant award. You are supporting people who made it happen and being their loved ones. So I care for you too. So yeah, the GrappleCon is going to be a lot of fun. It's always fun. Barry's a fun person. He's also very intelligent. If there's a problem, he's already thought about it possibly happening. He doesn't take like 2 minutes to react. He immediately is on top of any kind of, and there are very few problems because things are well planned, they're spaced, things are organized. So it runs like clockwork. It's very smooth, very nice. And what that creates, as exampled by, for example, a crowd of 45 people who are waiting for an entertainer who doesn't show up on time, and they have to wait 15 minutes for him to get there. Well, by the time he gets there, they're going to be, a lot of them, some of them, I believe, but most of them are going to be irritated because what that shows, real bright, very plainly, what that shows, that entertainer doesn't care about their time. So how should they feel about it? He's showing no regard for them. Why should they care for him? I mean,
I can only speak. Unfortunately, I was never able to attend any of the old fan fests, but I can speak on behalf of the first GrappleCon that I was a part of last year. That it was very well run. Nick Massey and Barry Rose together. I mean, and Nick Massey's been doing this type of thing as well up in the Northeast. Now he's spread out to Portland and up in Montreal and things of that nature. So they both have a very good grasp of how to do this type of thing, and it's not as they would call it, a cattle call, which you would see in some of the other areas where they would do these conventions where it's like stand in line, get your signature,
yes,
and get the hell out of line as fast as possible.
Yep.
You might have a chance to say hello before they're done signing out. No, it's not like that. You get to stand back and have great conversations with these guys. The wrestlers are around all day long. Some of them more than just for the event. They do have random events planned throughout the day. I know Brian Blair's doing a Q&A in the morning, a little morning buzz. The former Killer Bee, Brian Blair. There's a WrestleMania panel. They're going to be talking with some of the wrestlers that have participated in WrestleMania 1, going back 40 years to the very first WrestleMania. Some of the people on that panel I know or they're a part of this event. Like you said, there's some legends there. They're going to do a nice group photo. I think it's either an autograph of all of them or however they're doing it. I'm not sure. I'd have to go check and see. But I think there's 4 alumni from West Texas University, and that's rare in this day and age. You talk about all the wrestlers that came out of West Texas, Bob. I'm sure you've heard of that at some point in your career.
Oh,
all the wrestlers.
Tito's one of them, right?
Yeah, Tito's there. Dory Funk Jr.'s there. Yeah, I mean, Ted DiBiase, also out of West Texas. So there's quite a few.
Not Stan Hansen.
Hansen's not there. No, he was there at the one I was at. There. No, Stan. Okay. Yeah, Stan Brody, I think, might have went there. Tully was there. Tully was quarterback, I believe. Tully Blanchard.
That's right.
Was quarterback in West Texas. There's a lot of boys came out of West Texas. That's crazy.
They were.
That's
that went into the business. It might have been because of the proximity of the Funks. Dory and Terry I believe both went to college. I know their dad did, graduated from Indiana.
They went to West Texas. They had to have went to college.
Yes, yeah.
Played at West Texas. So there you go.
Yeah, so they had the perfect opportunity of someone like a Stan Hansen or whoever who has the some of the qualifications.
And it wasn't just the fact that all these guys became pro wrestlers. It's all these guys became successful pro wrestlers is what makes it crazy when you think about it. Like the odds of that out of one little small area of the world is just insane. Later on, you would see that kind of a group coming out of Minnesota, not necessarily out of the Vern camp either, just out of Minnesota. You would have the guys like Rick Rude and Kurt Hennig and all that whole group of guys that came through in the early 80s, started breaking into the business. But back in the day, it was West Texas, and quite a few of those are going to be on hand. The guys that are still around, it's going to be fun to see that, in one spot, one time again. And like I said, the WrestleMania panel, that's fun. And then just so many other random names as I scroll through here that don't always really make these type of events. There's a name that a lot of fans from the Southern Territories, especially Alabama from the 1980s, especially wrestler by the name of Wildcat Wendell Cooley's going to be there. And if you grew up down in the Alabama area, specifically in the 1980s, I had been told by some fans that Wendell Cooley was their Hulk Hogan at one point. So I'm sure there's going to be some fans there in Florida that would be excited to see him because he doesn't make these things very often. So yeah, as I scroll through this list of names, it's insane, and I'm jealous that I can't be a part of it. I really wanted to be there. And not even so much for the wrestlers, really. I made a lot of friends, Bob. There's a lot of great people at these events, fans at these events. And, I'm thankful that we have social media in this day and age that we're able to stay in contact pretty often. I get a lot of messages from them and things of that nature. But yeah, there's just a lot of great people there, and you're going to have time to sit and talk with a lot of the wrestlers. Maybe they might be busy at points, but you can catch them at some point. And that's another thing. There's not a lot of prima donna wrestlers there where they don't want to speak to you. It's like, okay, pay me and get out of my way. It's not like that at a GrappleCon.
No.
Everybody's so kind, so generous. I think they admire how smooth everything runs, so they feel more comfortable spending time with you. And I had great conversations, with some of the, guys when I was down there, like a Ron Simmons, who instigated the conversation. I was just going to say, hey, Ron, enjoyed your career and yada, yada. But he stopped my wife, and he must have talked our ear off for about 20 minutes. By the time we were done, I said, damn, but it was great.
Well, that's a good one. But yeah, Ron's a quality guy. I had a very, very small part, but I was able to be around him personally.
Right.
I never worked with him, but I did watch him train, help train him a little bit. The person that I met was, two-time All-American football player who wasn't a beast, who didn't make it by, being hopped up every time he went out to play, and,
right.
Just an animal out there. He was a very, very skilled at what he did. So, and again, a college graduate, so he's got the discipline too. I mean, the personal ability to persevere and, get an education. So you're doing that while you're playing sports too. I did it too. I had football and wrestling for 1 year at Michigan State. And I learned my lesson after the service, when I went back to Southern Illinois, I just wrestled. Trying to do two sports is very, very difficult. But Ron was excellent at his, and he was a man of quality. because even as great as he was at football, he was like me. My attitude I talked about in the past as a wrestler. He knew he was new at this. Who cares about him being an All-American football player? Take your Heisman Trophy in the ring with you, and then try to have a match. He didn't have, he actually was nominated for the Heisman Trophy his senior year. A lineman, a defensive lineman. I mean, that's just rare, so rare. So I'm so still pissed off at myself for thinking I could drive 9 hours and then not have to stay in bed for a week. Because
talking about Waterloo,
when Ron got up to speak, I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it back to the hotel. I didn't want to have a whole crowd watch me take a bump in the middle of the street. So I ducked out of there early. But the bond is still there. It's the parameters change in terms of pecking order, but the guys who are good guys, they're not saying, I became a big star. You were just kind of mediocre, so I think I'll go talk to somebody else. No, even that guy that you went out and slaughtered by like maybe pile driving him 6 or 7 times, he gave you his body. You could have killed him. And he knew it by accident, of course. I thought about writing a book where pro wrestling, there's a murderer who disguises it by, it's kind of like deathmatch. But anyway.
Don't give away too much. You don't want anybody stealing the idea.
Yeah, but, we talked before about the guy. You're not supposed to be so witty. I'm the one. I tell you what, though, I'm only a half-wit. I've been assured that by many people. So together, we're a wit and a half with adding yours. So
I'll take that. That bond. It doesn't matter if you had 10 matches or 1,000 or 10,000. To me, it doesn't matter if you're Ric Flair or a kid who just started and had his first match. Say in Waterloo, he had his first match the night before. At the wrestling show they put on at Waterloo. Well, he's in the business now. I mean, he's a kindergartner, might be pre-kindergartner. Got to start somewhere.
But he's in the business.
Yeah.
He's just as good as Ric Flair or Dory Funk Jr. He's in the business. I mean, they have more stature, of course. But the fact that he's part of it without having people like, we talked about how much we preferred enhanced performers to job guys. Yeah, that job guy, that was such a terrible insult. Your attitudes become to change. I mean, I was a job guy when I was a booker in terms of putting people over, but that was what was needed for business. So, my apologies out there to anybody who was in the business. And if you think of yourself as a job guy, please stop. We were all needed. All of us were needed for the business to be what it is today. And so we're all equally important. There's no levels. You don't have to. You can admire someone for their stature, but you don't have to be afraid to speak to them and shake their hand and treat them like a contemporary. Sure, they're a star. They were a star. Does that mean they're too good to speak to you? You're in the same business.
Even as a youngster, if you will, I mean, a teenager back in the old tape trading days when territory footage was started floating around and you're able to watch it, you learn really quickly, even if you don't understand how the business operates, even at that point in time, you quickly have a good feel for certain enhancement workers that really made the stars, no matter which. Yes. So in Memphis, there was a Jerry Bryant. In Georgia or the Carolinas, you get a Tim Horner or a Mike Jackson. Up in New York, I always loved, whenever Johnny Rods was going to be part of a match, I knew it was going to be a good, a match for TV and things like that. So there were always that talent that were, especially back in the day, referred to as job guys. Now, I've heard, various other terms thrown around over the years, but personally, I think it's more proper to call them, and what they call them now, enhancement talent, things of that nature. Now, I think we've talked about it in the past, and I have a feeling in my own world that you can use the term job guy, but to me, it's more related to one of those guys you see one time in and out that didn't really look like they were ready for TV. Now that was a job guy. He was in here specifically to do a job, and he's back on his way back, like he was talking about a janitor earlier or something of that nature. But in general, there were a lot of guys who, really paved the way for a lot of the stars. You talked about Dusty needing those guys to take those elbows, right, and things like that, and all those guys. And I think a lot of those guys appreciated that, certainly. Now, not everybody. Buzz Sawyer didn't treat the enhancement talent very well. And it just got progressively worse. And again, I still can't understand what Ole saw in him. I mean, not talent-wise, just as a human being. I don't know. I don't know if it was worth putting up with the nonsense. But and your buddy, Ronnie Garvin, now, he wasn't exactly the nicest guy in the world to some of those guys. He'd stretch him into pretzels. But in general, I see where you're coming from with that term and what they meant to the business.
Without them, I as a booker, I valued my enhancement talent more than I did someone who came in that was already known. Because, say, a Dean Ho, that comes in and, he's already been there. And like I'm thinking about out there in California. Right. He comes in, he's already been there, he's known. But when he has his first match on TV, you would like him to achieve the stature, near what he had at his height when he was there before. You don't want to have to take him like you would a brand new guy and, give him a match 2 or 3 or 4, 5 weeks in a row, beating different people before, he gets over. But to have a guy who could go out there and in one match do those things I just talked about, of making the guy look like a star immediately, those guys are much more important to me than the regular talent. Not that Dean or any of those guys, I respected all of them, but they were already made. The guys I needed were the people to help keep them made, and then actually to make them even more over and more of a draw. And the guys that could come in and do that, man, I appreciated them more than the guy that was going over. The audience, when the fans were still in the state of suspended belief or disbelief, the guy walking out, Ric Flair, whatever, he's a big star. But, the part that Sting did in the match, or if somebody else who got Flair ready for Sting and went out there and sacrificed some of their stature to get it done, I respect them even more than I do. And not that I disrespect Flair or Sting or any of those guys, but the enhancement guys, those are the ones that made, because the guys that were lousy at it, who were pissed off about doing a job. That's what it was called. It's not a derogatory term. Yeah, guys that did that and made a career out of it, I have all the admiration in the world, because it's not hard to go out there and get beat, but you do have to live in the community, and there might be some harassment and people giving you harassing you or whatever. Yeah, I always valued the enhancement talent. I was looking for people who who fit the bill, because to give a guy a big star a win over a nobody is just so foolish. Because first of all, you're telling the fans, why is Sting wrestling this newcomer? Right. On TV.
I think a lot, and you're right, for like, say, 98% of the talent, it should look like they're beating somebody outside of, a guy that they can, you look across the ring and you go, you beat him in 10 seconds. That's nothing. Now, you look at guys like a Vader or Sid Vicious, and naturally they should come in and just murder the opponent, and that's how they get over. They're a monster. Yeah. And people want to see that, whether they want to admit it or not. I loved it, even as a kid, even when they were working heel. It was amazing to watch Sid kill people. So he was, I was a fan of his, even though he was the bad guy, and I wasn't supposed to like him. You couldn't help but like something that cool. But you talk about these performers and putting guys over. In 1989, in the NWA, this is right after Dusty left, there was a young guy coming there by the name of Lee Scott, and he gave his body to the business immediately. Lee looked to be in his early 20s. I believe I'd read his father was a referee up in the Northeast somewhere many years prior to that. But he really made the other guys look great with the insane bumps that he was taking for them, to the point where the wrestlers were asking to work with Lee, to the point where this kid's 1 year in the business and they start giving him spots in the match because they appreciate what he's making them look like. So you're more giving in return. The wrestlers want to give back. They're letting Lee getting these spots and do these things. And unfortunately, I never really got a story on it, but I feel like as you watch the things he did week to week, the bumps he was taking, the insane bumps he was taking for these guys in many instances, you would look at that and go, that kid's career is not going to last very long. And by the following year, when Ole was booking, Lee was a referee. So I just go, in my mind, I felt like, wow, that kid finally did something to where he's already, he can't work anymore as a wrestler. But Ole gave him an opportunity, even there in his early 20s is what he looked like to me, as a referee, which is unheard of back in that time period. But he would work there for, I think, for most of Ole's run as an official in the ring. But I think back, another guy who came in, didn't last too long, but man, if anybody who grew up in that era, they still talk about Lee Scott today because of the insane bumps he would take to put these guys over and make them look like amazing athletes, top stars in the world.
Right. Well, a perfect example, a perfect example is Lex Luger. I was a booker. I needed him to be hot right away. I had Barry Windham and Kendall Windham. I had Steve Curran and Stan Lane. So I had some good talent, but I needed another single baby face that was strong. And Luger, of course, strong in drawing power. So when I had guys that could go out there with him, and usually in tag team matches where the two opponents and the referee could all, and I'd be in the corner as kind of like his manager, we could all advise him and tell him what to do. He was able to get over so that by 3 years later, he gets $1 million contract
right.
From Turner or whoever was running at the time. Yeah. Well, you don't think he should be grateful to the people that got him that stature? There have been a lot of big muscular guys in the business that never even got they never got a steady job.
Yeah.
Ole turned away a bunch of them because they had the muscles, but they didn't have the athletic ability, and they weren't Sid Vicious enough or something like that. Now, some of the guys went on and did get into the business and do well, but it took everybody. You want to talk about, well, yeah, I did it all myself. Yeah. All those guys that laid down, that bled for you. Yeah, I'm still, the most remarkable was Dusty against superstar Billy Graham in Miami. And he beats Billy. And then, Ox Baker, Pac Song, the Stomper, Dick Murdoch, Dick Slater, with the two Samoans that he liked, that they all ran into the ring, one after the other. Dusty gave them, every one of them the elbow. They all took them up outside and left. He hit the mat and rolled outside and grabbed their head like they'd been hit with an axe and went back to the dressing room. And by the time Superstar had recovered and attacked Dusty, and Dusty beat him up again, made a comeback, beat him again. Well,
if you will.
No wonder Dusty's a big star. I mean, he took all the heat. I mean, I didn't book that match, by the way. We were able to put the heat. The guys had enough heat, but we were able to put the heat back on them. But without that kind of thing, you can't make a superstar, and very few people can do that kind of thing.
Right.
So that was a situation where, hey, it's not some newcomer who just, bought his first pair of tights. You're talking about, with all those guys, you're talking about a couple 100 years maybe 100 years of experience is running in the ring and letting you make them look like you just hit them with an elbow and run them off.
They made him a superhero come to life, basically. What that. I sent you that video clip, and I think you finally got a hold of it there in your emails recently. I sent it several weeks ago. It was making the rounds on social media. Dusty Rhodes throwing elbows at all four horsemen. It was almost like a Three Stooges bit. They all stuck their heads in, and Dusty just kind of went down the line over and over and over with the old flip, flop, and fly, the elbows, and they all take the bump. And I said, this is tremendous. I just thought it was so over the top. I found it comical. And I think your response was something along the lines of, well, I don't think you were a big fan of the spot necessarily, but I looked at it for what it was. And again, it goes back to, that was the prime era of the Dusty feuding with the Horsemen. It was Tully and Arn and Flair, and I think Luger was the fourth guy in that instance. And they're all just standing there. You talked about being close to Wayne Hart. I think their heads were about 2 inches apart, so Dusty could just run down the line and drop those or throw those elbows. But, I'm sure most people listening have probably seen it. They've probably been on social media. It made the rounds quite a bit there a few weeks back. If you haven't, go check it out. It's fun for what it is. But again, you go back to superhero, and the fans they're suspending their disbelief on top of suspending their disbelief in that instance, because first you have to suspend your disbelief to get into the story that's being told in the pro wrestling world, but then to take it another level and buy that this guy can throw these elbows while these guys stand there in line waiting for it. It's just another level of fun. But I think that's why the crowd, if you listen, the crowd erupts, because it is so over the top that you can kind of you're laughing with it. You're popping for it. It is a superhero type thing you would want to write in a comic book.
Yeah, you're going to be hot at me. Who was, by the way, Dusty was out there against four guys. Who were his tag team partners?
The Road Warriors, and I'm not sure who the fourth
one
was.
And where the hell were they when four guys were attacking Dusty? Where were they? Hawk was actually running up and down the aisle.
Yes, popping for it.
Well, apparently somebody told him, "Don't you guys go in there and help him."
Well, I'm sure you know who told them that was probably the Book of Baby, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, probably.
Don't you come in when I'm getting over, son.
Yeah, it made the Road Warriors look like cowards. I mean, why didn't they go in there and help? They were
too much psychology, Bob. Too much psychology.
As a booker, I give it a D+.
Okay.
Because, Dusty, yeah, but the stature that Dusty gains from that has to come from somebody else. And the fact that he did it alone is fine, except for the fact that the Road Warriors lost stature by not helping him. Maybe a lot of people don't see it that way. I was looking at strictly as in a scientific.
For me to get hot at something in a wrestling world, I would have to take it more seriously than I do. I love the business. I love the history of the business, and I certainly love going back and watching the old stuff. But I don't know that I would ever get into an argument with anybody about anything storyline or booking purposes. There have been plenty of booking that I don't agree with, but it's just not worth my time to get too upset. But I 100% get your take. I mean, if you're just coming at it from a psychology point of view, from a booker's point of view, maybe you wouldn't do that. I mean, I don't know if, I think the fans would buy that if Hulk Hogan was doing that in the WWF, but there aren't too many guys that could get away with that. Dusty and Hulk may have been the only guys at that point in time, honestly.
Yeah. When I said you're going to be mad at me, I'm talking to you as a friend.
Oh, I know.
I know you're not. I know you're not going to get mad at me. We've become friends, new but true. And 2 years, not so new anymore.
Getting old.
Yeah, it's just I'm not criticizing Dusty. I felt sorry. Hawk didn't know what to do. What I would have had them do if they were going to do that, I would have had Hawk and Animal get into a beef among themselves and have them get down on the floor where they were arguing with each other. Not from the apron, but kind of out of the picture while Dusty was doing that. And they're arguing with themselves, maybe pushing each other back and forth about something, or at least they have some kind of excuse. But for them to just stand there while four guys are attacking Dusty, I just don't see how they can help but lose stature from not helping him. Maybe there were rules. Maybe there were some kind of rules.
Right.
Maybe it was Dusty against the Four Horsemen by himself.
I'm pretty sure it was an 8-man tag, if I remember correctly. But no, I see what you're saying there. I mean, obviously, Dusty coming in like that, I would hope to think that was a hot tag, right? I mean, that would only way to explain why all the heels are running at the same time and Dusty's exploding. So you could have done something where I don't know who was taking the beating when they made the hot tag to Dusty. Maybe it was one of the Road Warriors. If it was, you could have easily had them roll out of the ring and the other one go down to check on him while Dusty's making the hot.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of different ways they could have went about it. And I know the Road Warriors are just kind of there pumping up the crowd as if they needed it at that point. Really is all they were doing. They're kind of going along with it, letting Dusty handle business, be biz.
I'm nitpicking, and it's very likely nobody in the audience even saw it that way. They didn't. They only saw what they were focused on was what Dusty was doing, and that's what he wanted. And maybe he was brilliant. If I'd been a smart booker, I would have made myself a superstar everywhere I went. That way, if I lost my booking job, I could still work there as a wrestler.
That's right. High knees for everybody on the hot tag.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So, but I always resented bookers who put themselves over everybody else. So and also I was green. I wasn't a good businessman. I should have made a superstar out of myself just to have an occupation. If you become a superstar, you can take a year off and come back. And within a few weeks, you can get over again, even if you've been off a year. But anyway, no, Dusty was a great talent. And I felt, I rode with Hawk for 6 months and got to know him very well. I saw that picture of him running up and down the aisle, and I could read his face. He was going like, "What the F am I supposed to do? What I'm supposed to do?"
It's like a caged animal. You want to get at something, but you're not allowed. So it's
it's like I know I should be really alarmed, but I'm alarmed. I don't know. I'm curious.
Like an excited dog stuck in a kennel cage or something.
Yeah, I'm curious what the audience might have been saying to him and Joe and the animal. Hey, get in there and help them, you two lugs.
I think they were more focused on what was happening in the ring. But again, I go back to I totally see where you're coming from a booker's point of view. This booker just happened to be the guy that was in there doing the big comeback. So it made sense in that light.
Okay, he drew money for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm grateful for that. Yeah, if you're on Dustin's show, even the preliminary match guys made money. So I'm grateful for that. He did well.
I'm sure there were guys in the locker room, in New York as well that weren't big fans of Hulk Hogan, the human being, but they always praised whenever they were on the house show that Hogan was part of, right? So you knew you were going to get a higher paycheck than you were working on the other house show, wherever that may be. So, I'm sure. If you're an
early match, if there's no lumberjack or battle royal, you can be a second, third match and go home.
Unless you're Iron Mike Sharp, then you're stuck in Boston Garden overnight because you showered for 8 hours.
My God!
Yeah, that's OCD problem to the max. There was Mike Sharp.
About to the 10th power.
That's what I hear.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, I don't know if we got anywhere near what you want to talk about today, but
we mentioned the words BobRoop.com and GrappleCon, so I think we got in we hit the big points anyway this week. It was kind of I know you're heading into the big show this weekend, so I definitely wanted to just mention that and put that over on the way out.
Yeah, I really hope that if you don't already have a ticket, I really hope that you can come down there and join the activities. I personally would like to meet you and thank you for your support. And I like you. If you're listening, I like you. You might hate my guts. If you're listening, I still like you.
Yeah, that's okay.
Because
take it.
Yeah, it's okay. But
I have people critique me all the time, Bob. They say, "Oh, I didn't agree with this," or "You don't know that." But what they're doing is telling me that you listen to my program. I mentioned that an hour and 40 minutes into my program. So you've been listening to my show. So even if you hate me, you're listening. We certainly appreciate that. If that's what you want to do with your free time is listen to somebody you hate, then more power to you.
Yeah, that's the businessman's philosophy, and it's a good one. Yeah, what I'll find out is I wrote that I'm a fender. I'm trying to be funny. I'm a fender. what I already repeated this. Now it's not an unglued. As a vendor, if I do well, then I will feel like I was wrong about not being booked as one of the talents to maybe make some kind of presentation that whatever Barry might want to talk about Florida Championship Wrestling, for example, that maybe I was part of, something like that. Mm-hmm. But if a lot of people come to say hi, that's one thing. But if nobody, and I don't expect it, but if people aren't interested enough in my career and my way of expressing myself, and I've got a bunch of pictures like with me against Jack Briscoe and Terry Funk and Harley, world champions and top stars. I've got a bunch of those pictures. If they are interested and they come and they become customers, friends by association and financial support, and there's a lot of them, then I say, well, I was wrong about not being an attraction, And Barry asked me next year, I'll say, yeah. But if nobody, 100 people might come over and say, hey, but if they look at all my stuff and they say, no, crap's all too old for me or whatever, then I was right in not asking Barry to book or asking Barry not to book me as a talent. We'll see. But I hope to see you, all of you out there at GrappleCon. You'll have fun. There'll be things that'll happen that you'd never get a chance to be a part of if you're not there. So please, if you have any chance at all, please come and support us all by being at GrappleCon. And we're talking about this coming Saturday, the 25th. I believe the starting time is 10 o'clock in the morning. And Ray is going to tell you that site again because I've forgotten it.
Oh, no. Barry Rose and then Captain's Corner, Captain Nick Massey, they're putting it on, man. It's GrappleCon 3, Glory Days GrappleCon 3, Hilton Garden Inn, Tampa Suncoast Parkway. Bob Roop obviously going to be there, Ted DiBiase, Tito Santana, Barry Windham, Jerry Briscoe, Abdullah the Butcher, Brian Blair, Manny Fernandez, Bill Apter. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Man, it's going to be happening. As again, I'm quoting Gorilla a lot this week. That was another Gorilla Monsoon line there. Happening is what it's going to be, Bob. And you're going to be there all weekend. People can run into Bob. Who knows? Morning, noon, or night. He is a night owl. I don't know how his schedule is going to work here between GrappleCon and dealing with the flight and all that good stuff. But he will be awake at some point in time, and he will be wandering the halls. Just make sure he has his fly up. And it's going to be a great weekend for all to be had. If you guys are within driving distance, make the drive. If you have money to throw away at the last minute, take a plane. Do whatever you got to do to get there. But it's going to be a great time. It's a hell of a list of talent. And, I'm looking forward to hearing the stories on the other side. Bob, bring us back a couple of great stories. And, again, don't forget as well, bobroop.com, everybody. Bob, I'll let you send them home, bud.
Well, thank you again for being with us. We're in this together. I've said it many times before, but it's the absolute truth. Without you, there couldn't be us. Without us, you couldn't listen to us. I mean, you could listen to somebody else, but so we are connected. And I'd like to be able to share that connection in person by shaking your hand and thanking you for if you're attending the show or if you just come up to introduce yourself or if it's somebody who I know, says, hey, I last time I saw you, I was 10 years old. Now they're 60 or whatever. I'll be glad to meet you. Anyway, thank you, Ray, for being so generous with your promotion of someone else's affair. I think that that's one of the things that makes you such a decent, kind, respected character. And I sure appreciate being a partner in this project with you. So thank you, and thanks to all you folks out there. Please stay well.